just don't ever give up. Don't limit yourself, you know, because I could have easily have done that when what happened to me happened. And, you know, your brain is 100 times stronger than your body. Every time your body wants to quit and your brain tells it not to, you know, it'll follow suit.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today on The Journey. I'm Jeff Commings.
And I'm Harmon. I'm excited to talk with today's guest because I'm very intrigued about her journey becoming an Olympic gold medalist. And not only that, she's also a two-time world champion for Team USA. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome Jeffery to The Journey. Hi, Ree. How are you? It's good to have you.
How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure to have you here. We're always excited to talk with some of the greatest athletes in the world, and you're definitely one of them. I want to know more about the experience of earning that Olympic gold medal, but I think the story actually of you qualifying for the 2004 Olympics is actually a bigger story than actually going to the Olympics. So everything was looking good for you leading up to trials, I'm sure, and then just when taper's starting, you actually are lying in a hospital bed. So tell us what caused you to have to make this visit to the hospital just before the biggest meet of your life.
So the doctors actually were even unsure how I got so sick and where it came from or what caused it. The only thing I know is it started as strep throat. And it was really bad strep throat. Like I used to get strep throat a couple times a year when I was a kid, and they wanted to take my tonsils out. And, you know, of course that with swimming, that just doesn't happen. You can't be out of the water for any amount of time to do something like that. So my mom kind of refused for a long time. And then I flew out to a meet in Long Beach. It was the first time that they had built that temporary pool that they were going to have trials in. And they were having I think it was the Janet Evans Invitational or something like that. So my coach thought it'd be really important for us to go out there and kind of like get a feel for the pool, feel what it was like to go through a time change. Cause at the time we were on the East Coast. And the first day I got there, I started feeling really, really sick. And this was like, I think 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a month before trials were supposed to happen. I was starting to feel really sick, and I swam my first race and it was awful. And so my coach was like, all right, let's go to the nurse that's on at the meet. And they were like, yeah, you got really bad strep throat. So they put me on a Z-Pack. We flew home, which I, in retrospect, probably shouldn't have done. I woke up the next morning and I couldn't breathe. My tonsil had abscessed so large that they had to rush me to the hospital in an ambulance. They had to put a tube down my throat. My coach had to call USADA and all the, doping places, because they were like, she needs medicine that had steroids in it. And they were like, it's that or she's not going to be able to breathe. So he had to get, TUE forms, and he was on the phone before I could actually get any treatment, which was wild in itself. And so, when he got the approval for that, they started giving me a bunch of IV stuff. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink. So, all my food was coming through an IV for a couple of days. They were going to drain it with a needle, but it ended up just disappearing on its own after 2 or 3 days. And they had no idea what it was, why it happened that way, where it came from. And, I was laid out for 4 or 5 days, a couple weeks before trials were supposed to happen. And we just, my coach was like, you've been preparing for this for 5 years. You've given up countless social events. You've given up all kinds of things for this. 5 days is not going to be what writes your story. It's just not going to happen that way. So, I credit a lot of my strength in getting through that to him. And, I had a really good support system with my parents, but it wasn't easy. And it was really scary, because I thought, I had given up all this after 5 years, and this is what's going to happen. But, obviously I didn't allow that to. Trials didn't go the way that I wanted it to, but, I got the job done. So it's a weird story.
Yeah, it's extremely weird, because everybody, if anything goes wrong before trials, it might be, oh, you just kind of sprain your ankle or something, or, you fall, you trip over yourself, you can get a little cut. And so, right. Yeah, you have a nice little ha-ha story to tell. But this is something where I would imagine you may have, even when you were there in the hospital for 4 or 5 days, maybe in the back of your mind thinking, this is not going to happen. I'm not going to even make make it to trials. Was that
Yeah, it was
ever
a
a thought
dark
that
couple
went through
of
your
days.
mind?
Absolutely. It was a dark couple of days. But like I said, like I had an amazing support system, you know, and that's why, you know, being a coach now, I really tell people, like, you can't do this kind of stuff on your own. You just can't. And as long as you surround yourself with people that, you know, some of them believed in me more than I did sometimes, that was really, really important. And I think what really helped.
So, I mean, yeah, that's totally crazy. So talking about that 200 free Olympic trials final, how did you feel you would perform knowing what you had just gone through 5 days prior? And what was in your head, and also what kind of like pressure was on you to make that Olympic team?
I mean, it's so long ago that a lot of it's kind of spotty. I do just remember that, you know, when I finally did get back in the pool for like the 1 or 2 weeks that I had left, my coach was just like, don't try to like undo what you think you like. Don't try to like add more yardage. Don't change the plan. We can't be, you know, trying to like get back into shape when you have 2 weeks left till trials. Like what happened, and we have to kind of like accept it and move on. So I think like having that, just sort of somebody saying like, this is what happened. We can't change it. We still have to stick with what the original plan was, kind of really helped me not forget about what happened, but focus more and kind of like laser in on what the job was instead of thinking about, you know, what could or could not be, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
right.
Makes sense.
So.
And so then you did the prelim swim at the actual Olympics. How did you think that swim felt compared in that relay compared to your actual 200 individual free?
I mean, it was not, by the time I actually got to the Olympic Games, I was just happy to be there. So, you know, and I was only 17 years old. At that point, I thought, this is my first one. I'm going to go to another one. I'm going to, you know what I mean? So I just was like, enjoy the journey, have fun, have fun, like just really take in everything, enjoy the people that you're meeting, you know, the food that you get to eat, the pools that you get to swim in. So by the time I got to the race, it was just kind of like, get through it and represent the team and get a place at finals like we were supposed to. So my time wasn't really where I wanted it to be. But at that point, I had kind of like accepted that that's sort of what was going to happen. And Mark Schubert was there with us at the time, and he was going to be my coach at USC in the fall. And he was just like, you know, you were really sick. Don't let this performance like define the rest of your career. You're only 17 years old. You have a lot more to do. Like, you know, it is what it is. And sometimes this happens. Be proud that you're here. So that's kind of how I tried to treat it, you know?
It must be really hard to kind of think about that and think, obviously you had worked so hard, you had this goal, not just to make the Olympic team, but to perform well enough, maybe even to make a 200 freestyle individual event and really contribute to Team USA in Athens. But you got on that relay, which means you are an Olympian for life, which, you know, a very small percentage of people in this world get to have. And then you got to swim on that relay. And what a lot of people don't know is that there's a rule at the Olympics and at World Championships as well as whatever medal that the team wins in the final, those who swam in prelim also get that medal. So
Right.
That's how you got your gold medal. You swam on the prelims. You contributed to the actual gold medal that was in that they got in the final. I want to know what your experience was. I'm sure you were there in the stadium watching that final, probably knowing in the back of your mind that, you know, I want whatever medal they get, I'm going to get. So talk us through those. I think it was like a big deal because this was going to be like, you know, chase for to try to break that last East German world record. So talk about the, you know, that 8 minutes in the pool of those ladies racing for Team USA and what you were going through.
Well, I mean, that was a strange relay because there was a lot of drama around it. I'm not going to bring up names, obviously, but you know, the process for selecting the relay, and there's been a lot of like swim articles about it where they try to explain it, where they bring 6 people in the 200 freestyle, but it might not necessarily be those 6 people that swim the relay. So what happened with our relay was Natalie Coughlin, I said I wasn't going to bring up names, but she obviously swam the night relay, even though she wasn't in the morning and she wasn't in the individual 200. The reason they put her on it was because she had swum a couple of really, really fast 200-meter freestyle times at like other meets throughout the year that were faster than all the times we were going. So they were like, we're putting Natalie on it. To me, that made sense. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, some people didn't really like that decision. And so there was a lot of stuff going on at the Olympic Village when that decision came down. So, you know, the people that were chosen for that relay are all people that I was really, really close with. So I just wanted them to, you know, ignore kind of the drama that was going on with it and understand that they were selected for the relay for a reason. So I was just happy to see them walk out with that energy and like being ready to go after that record. And, you know, because they're such close friends of mine, I just wanted them to like perform well for them. You know what I mean? I wasn't really thinking about the medal for me. That was in the back of my mind, but I don't know, when you get there, like there's such a tight knit, like camaraderie to it that you want everybody to perform for them too. So it's like, it's a really cool energy when you get there.
And then they break that world record, get a gold medal. Did you know right away, obviously, yeah, I'm going to get one too?
I did. We didn't know, like they didn't tell us how we were going to receive them. Obviously we weren't getting on like the podium with the 4 that swam it. So there was a little bit of confusion there, but it was pretty surreal. I was like, holy cow, I'm 17 years old and like this just happened. I'm not even in college yet, you know? So it was kind of a whirlwind. You don't
How
really
did you get your gold?
Young. Huh?
How did you get your gold medal?
So they actually sent it to us in the mail, like a month after the fact. So we didn't get it while we were there, but you know, it didn't matter at that point.
Whenever you get your gold medal, you get it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it's really interesting how you talked about, you kept saying over and over, I'm 17 years old and I'm in the Olympics. You were one of a few high school swimmers that were in the Olympics. I remember Katie Hoff and
Yep.
Dana Vollmer was actually in high school at the time. So it wasn't like you were alone. So did you feel like that all of you that were in high school had kind of a tight little bond that kind of helped you get through the experience?
Yeah, and then the cool thing is too, like once, like at World Championships, I had met a couple of those people. So when I came back the next year for the Olympics, some of them were like already friends, but the high schoolers, because we had different like curfew rules and things like that too when the event was over. So we all hung out together just because most of the stuff we were allowed to do, you know, just naturally we gravitated towards each other. But we ended up like creating some really, really good friends for life. I mean, I still talk to Dana and I'm still like, so it was fun being able to do that with other people that were young, because like they also understand it from a different perspective now than, you know, if you made it when you were older. You don't appreciate it as much when you're young, or it's kind of just like, oh my God, clothes, shoes, food, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not, whoa, I'm on like a really big, like this is a big deal. I have a big platform for doing this. So it's cool like being able to experience that with other people your age and not feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm a baby. What do I do? You know?
Yeah, I think it takes a while to get over the fact that almost everything, you get everything for free.
Oh yeah, McDonald's for free? Forget it. Like everybody had to have a come to God when we showed up. Like, look, you can't eat McDonald's until the meet's over. Like, and it was hard because it was right at the front of the food court too. It was the first thing you walked by when you went in. So it was like torture for, you know, the 7 days that we weren't allowed to have it.
I'm sure you enjoyed it. So that Olympic experience, as I said, not many people get to have it. And for you, this all started when you were growing up in Boston, and then later you moved to Florida. And you were rising through the ranks slowly but surely. As you said, you were on national teams when you were in high school. How did your club coaches foster this ascent to becoming not just, within your own region and state a good swimmer, but also nationally and internationally?
That's a really good question. I'm going to be honest. There are times where it was difficult. Not like for me, he always made sure that, you know, I had a pretty easy time of things, but you know, there were those parents that, because he was on a board-owned program at first, and there were those parents that were like, well, why is she getting more attention than my kid? Why are you going to, you know, nationals for a week when my kid has practice? And it's like, you know, he would have to kind of stand up and be like, how many times has your kid been at practice this week? Once. Ree comes every day. Like, so he had to do a lot of like explaining to some people that I'm giving her the same kind of commitment that she's giving me. It's not about, you know, me catering to her just because she's good. I never missed practice. I never missed practice for any reason. Like the time that I got sick, that I was in the hospital for 5 days, like, and my coach would tell you that might be the only 5 days I missed in probably like 4 years. Like, I'm just, yeah, I was a nut about it. So like, he had to defend me a lot in that way. And I didn't really know about that till I got older. So I was really thankful for that. But he had to make a couple of choices that definitely benefited me in the long run. He broke away from the board my senior year and he started his own team. It was tough because like my commute for freshman, sophomore, and junior year of high school was like a 2-minute drive to my pool. And then my senior year, the Olympic year, he had to move like a half hour south. So my commute ended up being a lot longer, which meant way earlier morning practices. But, you know, it was a decision that was better for us because he got to kind of run things the way that he needed to give me the success or set me up for success. And I'm really thankful for him for making those choices. So it was, you know, him kind of having to maneuver a lot of things. And I do think times are different now, though. I think swimmers like that have a lot more support than they used to, especially down in South Florida. So I'm not sure that it really needs to be like that anymore necessarily. But
with such commitment that you had, and just working so hard and getting up so extra early just for those morning practices, how excited or what excited you most about being able to make the national USA team?
the clothes or the trips. Honestly, it was a combination of like the people I got to meet, the places I got to go, and all the free stuff they gave us. It's just fun. It's a different environment. Like you go to those national trips and they do like rookie skits and there's all kinds of like goofy team building stuff that they do. And so it's about like the people, I think, for me, and really just getting to like travel and get to know everyone. And that's really what motivated me to keep doing it.
Yeah, I could kind of speak on that. Is, you know, most people will forget, you know, the times you put up or the places you got. Maybe not at the Olympics, but you know, you always remember the little things. You know, the skits like you were talking about. Those are just the most fun thing you'll ever experience on a national team. And so, yeah, that's really where most of the people have their memories from. Definitely.
Oh yeah. You know, and that's kind of why like I try and do that with my kids. We put a big emphasis on like social stuff and trying to make sure that it's fun. Because God, I know how brutal this sport can be day in and day out. Like if you're not having fun, like what are you doing? You know?
Right. Well, to kind of piggyback on that, you were talking about how you were all this drama, medical drama was going on before the 2004 Olympics. You kind of, I wouldn't say blew it off, but you kind of said, it doesn't matter because I'm pretty much am going to make another Olympic team, you know, because you were only 17 years old. And yet just
Naive thinking.
yeah. So just shortly before the 2008 trials, you actually decided to retire from the sport and walk away. So
Yep.
What prompted that decision?
Oh, so I actually, after the 2004 Olympics, I kind of went through a pretty bad bout of depression. I went right to college after the Olympics were over, and I got there late, like, you know, mid-September or something like that. So classes had already been in for a month. They, you know, threw me in some high-level classes because that's all that was left, and pretty much I got ignored for a little while, and you know, I was left to my own devices, and I, you know, never really did anything or acted out in high school. I never drank, I never partied, I never snuck out of the house, I never did any of that stuff. So, you know, I was left alone, and I just gone to the biggest, you know, pinnacle of my sport, and I was like, well, I'm going to let loose and have fun. No one's paying attention to me, no one's, you know, doing whatever. And I kind of went down this really dark hole for a while, and you know, dealt with some suicidal thoughts, and went to a therapist for a while at school. Mark Schubert was great about setting me up with somebody who really helped me a lot, like really a lot. She was actually an Olympic breaststroker too, like a really long time ago. So like she had such a unique perspective to be able to like talk to a therapist that also swam. So that was life-changing. She suggested I get a dog. So my mom got me a puppy who actually is turning 14 next month. I still have her. And the dog did a lot to kind of help me get my stuff together and, you know, pull things together. And, but I still I hadn't really been training well for the last 3 years leading up to it. And I was still a mess. You know, I'll say it, I was doing a lot of drugs. I got into that for a while. I'm, you know, tattooed head to toe for a reason. Yeah, I was dealing with like a lot of addiction stuff. And, you know, I thought to myself, I was like, you know, like I could work hard for the next 5 or 6 months and make a run at it. But knowing what I had gone through in 2004, where I was so sick, and I just told myself, like, you're gonna make it. Like, knowing that I could potentially be taking that opportunity away from other kids when I just kind of like didn't want it, it didn't feel right. So I was like, you know, it's time to stop for a little while. I didn't necessarily think it was going to be forever, but I just knew that it just wasn't right, you know?
Yeah, for sure. We've all, I feel like, have been there. So now you're kind of returned to the pool deck as a coach. What lessons from your swimming career do you kind of want to impart onto your new athletes as they kind of go through this same journey?
Well, I think the important thing is knowing that each kid is different. So, you know, we have a boy here who, you know, when I first showed up a couple of years ago, he was just kind of like, yeah, I swim because whatever. And now he's like, you know, yesterday was the first day pools were open. He was the first one in the water with me. You know what I mean? And he could probably get some money at a school. And like, this isn't something I think he even thought of 3 years ago. So a kid like that, obviously I would be like, you show up, we push ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, that kid obviously wants to swim in college. He wants to keep going. So I'm going to treat him a lot differently than somebody that just, you know, is doing it for a social thing, or is doing it, you know, to add to their resume for college or whatever. Like, that kid's not going to get, why weren't you here at 5 o'clock in the morning? You know what I mean? Like, they have a totally different goal in mind. So I guess what I try to do is just like listen to that and, you know, not impart my like everybody's got to be an Olympian mindset onto every kid, because that's not what every kid wants. And I can't, you know, give this blanket, this is going to work for everybody, because that's not the world we live in. So, you know, I try to, and then even the kids that work hard, I try to like bring some fun in it. And if, you know, he's like, well, I want to go to prom, like, go to prom, kid. Like, I didn't take those opportunities, and I don't regret it, but you know, my life trajectory was obviously very different. Like, I knew I was always going to be on a pool deck. I always knew I wanted to coach. Like, this is just, I don't love anything as much as I love swimming.
Yeah, it's really great that you found your way back to the sport, because I know that from hearing from other people that when they leave on such not great terms, that it's hard to find the excitement that brings them back. And sometimes it takes them forever. Like, they even have kids and they don't want their kids to swim. So, you know, just talk about how you were able to find that mental capacity to be able to look at the sport again and say, I want to be a part of it, which you did. Even, you know, for a brief time, you had a comeback to make a run at another Olympic trials.
I guess what really happened, and I think like even Michael Phelps has talked about this, where I stopped for a while and I got miserable, like way more miserable than, you know, back in 2004. And I just realized like it's almost part of who I am. It's ingrained in my DNA. Like, you know, we've been out for 2.5 months because of COVID, and last week it was looking like public pools still aren't going to open, and we didn't know if the Y was going to open, and I had a nervous friggin' breakdown on Wednesday. Like, woke up sobbing, crying, like could not get myself under control, and I just realized it's because I desperately missed the pool. And I think I just eventually, my body just told me, like, you don't have a choice. This is your thing. This is your drug of choice. Like, so I can't be away from it.
Yeah, well, it's really good to see you back on deck as a coach. I'm sure the kids are excited, not just to have an Olympian as their coach, but someone who's really passionate about it. And I'm sure all the things that you're imparting to them, it's sinking in slowly but surely.
I like to think so.
Ree, it's been so great to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing about your journey to becoming an Olympian and the journey that leads you to where you are now. I'm sure there are a lot of kids out there that have gone through similar issues, and I think your words of wisdom will definitely help them as well. So thank you very much.
Oh, of course. Like, just don't ever give up. Don't limit yourself, you know, because I could have easily have done that when what happened to me happened. And you know, your brain is 100 times stronger than your body. Every time your body wants to quit and your brain tells it not to, you know, it'll follow suit.
Yeah. Swimming's 90% mental.
Right. That's right.
All right. Thanks again, Ree.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. So thank you all for joining us. And again, as we always say, it's not just about the destination. It's also about the journey. Thanks for joining us.